Hey there, thank you for clicking on the video. I'm Saltwater Jack, and in today's video we're going to go over 5 things that will help you catch inshore saltwater fish. We're going to go over your equipment, we're going to go over artificial lures, we're going to go over the tides, we're going to go over where to fish and what to look for when you're out there. At the very end of the video we're going to show you a bonus tip whether you should fish rod tip up or rod tip down. First, we're going to go over rod and reel selection as well as your lines. I'm going to suggest that you get a rod that's 7 feet, okay? Similar to this one right here, so it's 7 feet. This one is a medium action with a fast action tip. And the reason for that is that we need enough backbone, that's why you get the medium, and then you got that fast action tip to help feel that lure bumping across the bottom and those sensitive bites. Next, I'm going to suggest you get at least a 2500 reel, so that you have enough line to fight those big redfish when they're running and build it to wear them down and turn them. As far as the line that I'm going to suggest you get some Power Pro braid. I use 10 pounds here. For the leader, I use fluorocarbon, and I use a Berkeley fluorocarbon, and I use 20 pounds because I fish a lot around docks and oysters, and I don't like getting broke off at all. So that's what I would suggest. This right here, I mean, this is a St. Croix rod, and it's actually a Stratic reel, and you know it's not cheap. But I will tell you, you don't need to spend a lot of money to get started. As an example here, for many years I actually fished right here with this Avocot 2. It's a Mitchell reel, and I mean this right here was I think it was $39 to $49. And I still use it today to mess around, and you can see I've got it set for a Carolina rig, but it's super light tackle. It's a lot of fun, and this only has a 2000 size reel and still able to turn those reds, but it's all about having a lot of fun catching the fish. I used to do a lot of offshore fishing, and of course, you know, when you're offshore fishing, you're trying to get the big rod, and you got to, you know, fight the mahi, or you got to fight the, you know, the kingfish. And so out there, I mean, you got some big heavy rods, and when you come inshore, you need to go a little more light tackle to in my opinion, make it a little more fun. So when those reds are running and you hear that line screaming, you get a little taste of the offshore. Oh, there he is. Look. Redfish, got him. Heads up.
Nice. That's a good fish.
Yep.
That's a nice fish.
Okay, so let's go over your artificial lures. I like to fish with the Z-Man products. Let's see. And what I would suggest to get you started, some basic lures that you need to get started with. Let's see. You're going to need to get started with this shrimp, and it's just a natural color and it's scented. I like the TRD green pumpkin goby. This is the 4-inch. You can also get the 3-inch or 2.75. And then a basic paddle tail. This is one of the ones that I got started with, and it does a great job catching trout and whatnot. But that's the mood ring. That's a SwimZ. One of the things I like about this system is that I'm able to use the same hook, and then actually I can go from the shrimp, then I could go to paddle tail, I could do the TRD, the pumpkin goby. And so if one is not working in an area, then I can try another one without having to cut my line and retie, and so it just saves time. I can just remove one lure and put the other one on. So one of the things that you'll see right here, this is a 1/10 ounce, okay, and it's a Ned lock. You can see it's got the little locks right here, and a lot of folks like that. This is a 1/5 ounce, which you can see it's a little bit bigger. I'll go over that in a second. You can see it's got this little hook right here. And again, they're both designed to, when you slide that elastic, Z-Man elastic lure on there, it's designed to catch it and hold it, right? And you can use this lure over and over and over and over this plastic. Whereas some of the other plastics, you're going to find that the fish are going to be able to, especially with the teeth, they're going to be able to really tear them up. I tried going cheap one time and trying some basic worms and whatnot that look like, you know, your basic TRD pumpkin goby. And after about 2 fish, I mean, it was already kind of disintegrating from where they were chomping on it. So I encourage you to go with the Z-Man products, and you'll find with that Elastec, it's going to be, you're going to be able to use it over and over, and you're going to get your money's worth, right? So anyways, let's talk about the size of it. So you got the 1/10 and you got the 1/5, okay? So depending on what areas you're going to be fishing, in our area, in the Charleston area, we have some major tide swings, 5-6 feet, depending on the moon phase. I mean, that water can really be ripping, okay? There's times where the water's not ripping as much, and I really encourage you in that situation that you use that 1/10, right? You go ahead and use that 1/10. That way, if you got it on something like a shrimp, and you toss that out there, and you bring that up off the bottom, man, that Elastec, right? And it's very buoyant, and you're going to find that it's going to just float down, and then you bump, 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 and then it just floats down. Whereas if you got the little heavier weight on there, of course, it's going to go down much quicker, right? So if however, the tide is really rolling, you're going to find that lighter hook, right, that lighter hook there, that right there is just going to get taken away by the current, and it's not going to make it to the bottom. You're not going to be able to twitch it and work it. So really, depending on the tides that you're in and how the water's ripping, you're going to have to maybe adjust the actual size of the head. So I encourage you to get the 1/5 and the 1/10, so you kind of have your bases covered there. Okay. So let's talk about the TRD, the pumpkin goby, the green pumpkin goby. You'll see that we fished that quite a bit. And again, as you're working it across the bottom, and it comes up, and you'll see that will sit up. I mean, the mushroom head will land on the bottom there, and then that will just work back and forth, and that just drives fish crazy, right? We find that this is a very effective lure in our area, and I've seen that it's obviously it was first used by bass fishermen, and saltwater fishermen have been using it as well, and it's a very effective tool. One of our best fishermen in the Charleston area, Greg Peralta, who was at a fishing seminar, he actually uses the TRDs and the Ned rigs, and is very successful with that as well. Always have in your tackle box, get you a paddle tail. As you can see, it's got that little tail there, and you can get bigger ones. You can get this size right here, just is good to kind of cover the gamut. I mean, you catch flounder, you can catch trout, and some reds. You may have to go a little bit bigger for the reds, but I mean, I've caught all of them on this, right? The shrimp, you always, if you're fishing salt water, you really need to have a natural shrimp in your tackle box, okay? So if you've got those three in your tackle box, I feel like you can cover your bases. Again, if you watch some of my videos, you'll see that we catch flounder, we catch trout, and we catch redfish. And most of the time we're using the pumpkin goby, but I use the shrimp, and I also use the paddle tail, and have been very successful with those as well. If you're thinking about maybe doing some top water, then I know that I like this bone colored right here, the Uzuri, and in one of my first videos, caught some really nice fish with it, a lot of trout, a lot of reds, and you can see it's pretty beat up here, but man, just walking the dog, and that thing's going back and forth, and you're going to find that the fish love this one. And if you get a basic white one, that kind of covers your bases, again, depending on which area you're in. I've found that this one works. You're going to find that top water is great, and it's so much fun, and I love it. However, you're limited sometimes on the times of day that you are going to be successful. We find that we're successful more early, first as the sun's coming up, or just before the sun comes up, and as the sun is going down. That's when we tend to be a little more successful here in the Charleston area. So that would cover you there. And then if you want to get the Miridine, again, I'm trying to cover a little bit of everything. I know I got some people that have maybe coming from the freshwater world, and they like the plastic lures and as opposed to the others. So anyways, here's a Miridine, and this is a twitch bait, okay? And it's actually pretty fishy looking. And so you've got your top water right here. It's going to stay on top of the water working it. And then the Miridine, you're going to find that this little Miridine here is going to be just below the surface, and it's a twitch bait. So it'll get just below the surface, and you twitch, 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 and again, it looks like a wounded fish, and then it floats, and then twitch, 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 and you're going to find that again, that's going to drive the fish crazy. Okay, so let's talk about your tides. Okay, tides are super important, guys. I use a free app. It's called Tides Near Me. I like it. I can put in my actual location, and it will actually find buoys that are closest to me to give me the most accurate tides. The reason that the tides are so important is that you've got to have some moving water, right? You're going to need to know the tides so that you know where to fish. For instance, if you're going to be stuck having to fish at high tide and the water is up in the grass, you're going to probably have to fish pockets along the grass line. You're going to find these little pockets in the reds and the trout, and they'll kind of sit in those pockets and they'll wait for that bait fish to kind of come by, and then they'll get them, right? Around here we have a lot of docks, okay, on the Wander River, and so you'll have times where the bait fish will hang around those docks because it gives them structure, gives them some sort of amount of safety. They prefer, I think, being up in the grass, but you're going to find that because you've got the bait fish around the docks, then you're just going to attract your predatory fish. So you're going to have your trout, you're going to have your redfish, and so if it's a high tide situation, you may want to hit the pockets of the grass. If that's not working, then try some docks, okay? Especially if you've got a clear sky, you're going to find that the redfish will tend to hide underneath those docks because they don't want, and as well as trout, they don't want other things to eat them, such as birds swooping down and getting them, like ospreys and whatnot. So that's just something you need to look for. Low tide situation, right? So that's where the water's out of the grass. You're seeing the shoreline. And by the way, I love this time of day because when the tide is out, and things you're going to be looking for is you're going to be looking for bait that's scattering along the edge of the shoreline. You're going to be looking for pushes from the redfish, okay? Best I can relate to you, my dad was in the military and in the Navy, and so in my mind, submarines, as they push through the water, the way the weight comes across the nose, that's kind of, to me, what it looks like when redfish are pushing. When you've got bait fish that are moving, they kind of, when they come up and hit the surface, it kind of creates like a circle, right? Whereas the redfish, when they're pushing through the water, it looks like a submarine going, right? So look for those things, okay? That'll help clue you in on where you need to be trying to fish. But that's one of the reasons that I like to fish at low tide. For me, the best time that I like to go is when it's 2 hours before and 2 hours after low tide. That gives me the fish coming out of the grass, right? And that gives me the fish trying to get back up into the grass. So I get to fish both sides of that. Another thing to look for when it is a low tide or the tide's transitioning is mouths of little creeks. And it could be just the smallest little bit of water trickling out, but there's some bait fish trying to get back up in there, or there's bait fish coming out of there. And the predatory fish, they know this. So they're going to post up right outside the mouth of that creek and just wait for the fish to come to them. As the tide turns from low tide and it's going to be coming in, guess what? The predatory fish, they hang out there. The little bait fish are coming up there waiting to get in there as the water's coming in, and guess what? It's a meal for the predatory fish, and they know that. So if you can hit some of those pockets when it's higher tide or when the tide is coming up, if you can hit some of the mouths of those creeks, you're going to be much more successful at catching fish. Something else that you need to look for are birds going along the shoreline. Again, I mentioned earlier, I used to do a lot of offshore fishing, and man, we were always looking for birds, okay? If there were birds out in the middle of the ocean, they were there for a reason, and they were usually trying to get a meal from other fish attacking and leaving fragments in the water. So you're going to find, and as you can see in this video right here, that the birds will track those redfish, okay? And they're opportunistic, and they're going to track that redfish, and when the redfish is moving, okay, they're stirring up whether it's a little shrimp or a little bait fish, and so that's just a meal for them. And so in this video that you're seeing right now, the birds are just following them, okay? Now, if there's a bird on the shoreline and it's just hanging out and it's not doing anything, there's probably not any fish around it, because you're going to find that if there are fish around it, it's going to be tracking it, okay? So definitely look for those birds. They'll help you clue in. When it's low tide, oysters, look for those oyster shells. Again, they're going to hold bait fish because it's the safe haven, and therefore that is going to bring the predatory fish around that area. And again, when you see oysters, you know, it's going to be tough. You're going to lose some lures, but you need to get up there and do a couple casts. And again, you should see some stuff scattering, and it's probably a good idea to go ahead and give it a shot and see if you can pull a fish out, you know, of that area. All right, guys, so let's go over rod tip up versus rod tip down. So it doesn't matter if you like to do rod tip up or rod tip down. They both work. Let me give you an example. So we cast this out. And what a lot of people will do is they'll take, especially paddle tails, and they'll bump, 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 and then they'll let it set, right? And then they'll go bump, 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 and then they'll let it set, okay? Bump, 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 and they'll let it go down. So when you're doing that with a paddle tail and you're bringing it up, and it's coming down, that little tail is just doing what it's supposed to, which is paddling, right? So you'll find that that's a very effective way to catch some fish. And you just bump it, bump, bump, let it settle. Twitch, twitch, and a pause. Twitch, twitch, and a pause. Twitch, twitch, pause. Twitch, twitch. But you know, again, depending on your setup, you may not be able to do the twitch, twitch, pause, right? You may only be able to do the rod tip up. So you're gonna have to weigh it out. So let it settle. I go bump, 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 and let it rest. Bump, 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 and let it rest. Okay, so another suggestion I have for you is to connect with some local fishing groups, maybe through Facebook in your local area. I know that we have the Upper Wando Fishing Club, and we post videos and give tips and whatnot in our area as to the fish that we're catching and maybe what we're using as well. I also suggest that you maybe take the time to, and I know it's a little bit of money, but go ahead and get a local guide. Go ahead and pay that little bit of money and let them know, hey, you're new to inshore saltwater fishing, and let them show you some tips and tricks for your area and maybe some of the best places to fish. As long as you're up front with them, you let them know, hey, I'm not trying to steal your spots. I just need to learn the best way to get started here and have some fun. And again, they obviously love fishing. It's one of the reasons they got into it, and they're obviously good at it. So that I'm sure they'll be glad to show you some tips and tricks in your area. All right, so if you made it this far, I actually am going to throw a couple more tips your way. One of the things that you're going to need, really, okay, you need a pair of pliers. I picked these up actually online, and these are actually pretty big pliers. I use them periodically and whatnot. They're good to have, and you can wear them on your waist and whatnot. If you notice, I have a lot of these. I like these because I can hook them on my belt loop. On this right here, I can hook to my life preserver. You're going to need to go, and I bought these at Walmart under $5. When you're messing with braid, it's different than mono, so you're going to need some scissors that can cut braid, or you're going to be extremely frustrated, okay? So make sure you get some scissors that will cut braid, and again, some of these little clips. They don't have to be super duper heavy duty, just basics that aren't going to fall off of your belt loop, okay? Also, these things right here, man, love these. And you're going to find that in saltwater fishing, you got some things out there that have some teeth, okay? So you're going to want to keep your fingers away, and this really works great. As you can tell, this is all rusted but still working. I'd encourage you to get that. Let's see here. Believe it or not, these little microfiber towels from like Costco or Walmart, great for wiping the fish slime off your hands, again, from all this fish you're going to catch. I found this product at Walmart, okay? I like catching fish, right? But I also like to clean my hands, and this stuff right here, this fish defunk, right, really helps get that nasty smell off your hands so you're not smelling like a fish for the next 3 days. So anyways, so get that as well. All right, so lastly, guys, take plenty of pics of all the fish you're going to catch. If you don't mind, this in the comments down below, go ahead and let me know what area of the country you're fishing in. Whether you're fishing East Coast, whether you're fishing down the Gulf Coast area, maybe Alabama, Louisiana, up in Virginia. Let me know what types of areas that you're going to be fishing in, okay? I'm going to leave links in the description below of all the products you see here. Maybe not some of these little things. You can pick those up at Walmart or whatnot. But some of the Z-Man products. If you purchase any of those items from the links, then yes, my channel does get a little bit of a percentage. It's not much at all. But I do appreciate it if you did that. If you find it less expensive somewhere else, by all means do that. I'm all for saving some money. But if you happen to click on the link, I just want to let you know that I do get a small percentage from that. Until next time, Saltwater Jack out.